motherhood is one of those things that you need to want wholeheartedly for yourself, because you have no idea how this will shift and change you and break you and test you. I have to admit, it has been really, really difficult to come onto a public platform and share this part of my life and my journey. The world is not kind to single parents. It has felt really difficult to articulate, and I'm hoping that in this particular video I let you all in a little bit more. Mom at 22 really allowed me to be very clear about what I wanted out of this journey. Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure this is probably my 10th take. Everything that could possibly happen has happened before I shot this video, but we persist. First things first, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And if you're watching this a few weeks or a few months in advance, if you've just discovered my YouTube channel, I still want to say happy Mother's Day to you. Moms are really at the core, Moms are incredible. Moms are resilient. Moms are incredibly strong. And I hope that you feel it in the everyday, even when it does not always feel so joyous. This journey is a tough one, and I hope to at least shed light into what that feels like for me. So if you are new here, please be encouraged to click the subscribe button and stick around. So let's get straight into this topic, a topic that is very difficult for me to talk about, a topic that, it's tricky. So as you can see from the title, I am going to be shedding light into the lessons that I've learned in my 10 years of being a mom. And just a disclaimer, I am a single mom. I'm a single mom of 2. And really, single mom in this context means I'm the primary parent of 2 beautiful children who have a support structure, children who have their fathers in their lives, and children who are blessed to be part of this blended dynamic that I'm currently. And this is how I choose to define it, particularly within the context of my life. So now that we have that out the way, the first thing I want to really say before I dive into the lessons is that if you have been on my channel for the past couple of months, you would have noticed that my content has been primarily about traveling, primarily about my career, and I also intended to dive into motherhood a little bit more. However, I have to admit, it has been really, really difficult to come onto a public platform and share this part of my life and my journey. Mainly because I'm also still figuring it out, and there are parts of it that I am not always comfortable navigating. Talking about it is one thing, but there are many parts of this journey that I'm still figuring out, and it has felt really difficult to articulate. And I'm hoping that in this particular video, I let you all in a little bit more all things motherhood. Because to be honest, while I don't owe anybody on any public platform this vulnerability, it feels disingenuous for me to come onto this platform and really talk about my journey as an individual, talk about my journey as a woman in discovery, when I then leave out a big part of my life. So I hope that this video at least lets you all in a little bit more into my journey and maybe a big part of who I am. The first thing that I just want to highlight, or the first thing that I've learned in my journey of being a parent, is that the world is not kind to single parents. Yeah, the world is not kind to single parents. The world is filled with a lot of judgment, very little grace to understand how we came to be single parents, and very little kindness. I think what I have experienced is a lot of judgment, a lot of assumptions about my position as a parent, how I came to be a parent. I think that has also been a very big part of why I don't necessarily always want to engage in topics that are related to single parenting and parenting as a whole. I've always felt that I have nothing to prove to people, and it has always felt like such a tricky topic that people are going to have their opinions of your journey, regardless of how much you own your truth, right? So I have always felt like it's in the actions. You know, my kids know how much I love them. My friends and family and the people in my proximity understand my journey. And therefore, I never really felt the need to touch on this topic, really. But I can't talk about lessons in being a parent without highlighting this particular one. And if you're watching as a person who's not a parent and has perhaps in the past unfairly judged single parents specifically, single moms specifically, please bear in mind that it's a very complicated, very hard journey, one that a person has to put one foot in front of the other, and a lot of us are figuring it out as we go. The last thing people need is your judgment. The last thing people need is your 2 cents about a journey that you have not experienced. The last thing people need is unfair expectations put on single moms, particularly. And this is something that I had to learn very early on. I had to learn very quickly that in order for me to be present for this journey, I needed to shut out the background noise. However, if you are intending to be a part of this community and consume my content, this is something that is extremely important to me. We're kind. We're kind people, we're respectful people. And I know that sometimes we cast judgment onto situations that not intending to, but really from a place of not knowing. So next time you encounter a single parent, a single mom, be kind. Extend the grace. Leave the judgment at bay. The second thing that I've learned in being a mom, and I became a mom pretty early. I don't remember navigating my career without having to factor in my daughter. And it was a huge motivator for my ambition. I think being a mom at 22 really allowed me to be very clear about what I wanted out of this journey, out of this life. I had always been a very ambitious person, a person who always navigated life with the next goalpost in mind. And the moment that Untinga came into the picture, there was a more holistic approach. I really started to think about who I wanted to be as a person, because now I had the responsibility to guide another person through life. And not only did she motivate me in my career, however, she also motivated me to be a better person, and still does. Now that I have 2 kids, it's literally been taken up a notch. Now, this journey is not always easy. It's not always a comfortable journey to navigate. And to be honest, being a parent always feels a little bit like it's a constant process of self-healing, self-work with no break. At least if you have an intentional approach for it. And that hasn't always been easy. Sometimes you just want to take a break. Sometimes you really just want to cruise through life. And honestly, sometimes you want to be given the room and space to make mistakes without having to think about the repercussions that those mistakes may have, not only for you, but your family or your kids in this case. So, to put it, all in all, it's actually just a blessing. Being a mom really made me a far more ambitious person, a far more clear and self-aware person, but a person who really strives to be a better person. And I'm glad that parenthood brought this out in me. It could have brought out other things to the surface. The third thing I've learned being a mom is that this journey is not yours alone. There is no version of being a mother, at least in my reality, where you get to do things for yourself. Selfishness, there's no room for it anymore. Personal space, very little room for it. Making decisions blindly for yourself, no room for it. Like, life is really no longer just about you. Life is about you and your bambinos. It is your responsibility. I really, really feel that it is. But if we're going to really keep it real, it is also one of the things that I've struggled with the most, is having to find pockets and space to pour into my interests, into my emotions, into my needs, outside of the role of being a parent. And while I do that very intentionally, it's not always easy to make my peace with the fact that I am journeying this life with 2 other people who depend on me, my little one even more, in terms of just to survive, but who depend on me. And so I cannot make reckless decisions without those decisions having some kind of repercussion on my kids. It's something that's quite difficult to really comprehend prior to you being a parent. And it's something that I don't think you ever get used to. At least I haven't in my 10 years. I mean, these little ones follow me into the bathroom. They are part of everything in my life. As a person who was an only child for 16 years of my life, and as a person who's very comfortable in her own space, this is something that I'm still finding my balance with. And now that both my children are in completely two different phases of their own lives and therefore require different things from me, it also means that there's less room for myself or less gaps to find space for myself. So I've had to change my perspective and find ways to integrate my kids into the things that I enjoy, but also intentionally put time aside to pour into myself. And while I do that, a big chunk of my life still very much accommodates my children. This is something that is not easy to do, and I don't think that we are open and honest about how uncomfortable and sometimes very inconvenient and irritating that can be. I think there's an expectation that if you a woman, you are automatically maternal and enjoy all the bits and pieces that come with motherhood. No, there are bits and pieces that come with parenting, motherhood that are difficult, that are not natural, that don't always feel natural. And there are parts of it that you have to constantly figure out. And I'm okay with owning that part of it. It's just my truth. I know that there are other moms who don't struggle with this particular thing. This is something I particularly struggle with. And I'm okay with struggling with that and figuring it out as I go. Another thing I've learned in my parenting journey is that while it looks like from the outside I have a balance and I'm able to be a go-getter and be a mom and somehow do it all, go, 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 there's no balance. There is no reality where you really truly get to do it all. You get to find your balance and find that there are seasons where you can lean into different parts of yourself, whether that's your interests, whether that's your home building era, whether that's you showing up in parenthood in a different way, whether that's you going for your dreams. You find your balance. However, in my 10 years of experience and in my 10 years of being a mom, I've found that there is no balance. There's always a cost. The cost could be your friendships. It could be the time that you have to pour into yourself. The cost could be your career. There are a lot of moms who make a decision to not pursue certain opportunities so that they can show up for their kids more. I have found myself to be in a season where I now want that balance more for myself. I think I've had the chance and the opportunity to pour into my career for a big chunk of my daughter's life. However, I'm pretty sure that came at a cost. That came at the cost of my presence fully. And by that I mean emotional. I've always been a mom who's all at the meetings, at the sports days, cheering my kids on, doing the projects. However, because I was chasing a career and certain opportunities, because I wanted to create the life that I want for my children, I know for sure that my life very much centered my career for a big chunk of my motherhood journey. And I can only imagine what the cost will be emotionally for my daughter particularly. It could turn out completely okay, but I'm not going to be naive and pretend that it has been a smooth sailing, balanced journey, not without faults, not without mistakes. And to be honest, I think we need to rid ourselves the pressure to have a balanced, or whatever society perceives to be a balanced journey. We have different priorities, different needs. Those change. One year you want this, the next you want that. You're figuring it out as you go. And motherhood in this day and age, I think, is probably as hard as it can possibly be, where you have to show up in each department of your life, whatever that looks like for you. If you are a mom who's also a wife, and a mom who's a homemaker, and a mom who's a career woman, and I mean, there's so many different expectations, and we are living more and more an individualistic life, which means that people don't lean into community as much as they used to anymore. And a lot of the responsibility lies on you for a big chunk of your day-to-day, which was not always the case, I imagine, for the generations before us. So it's a very difficult journey. And in recognizing that there's a shift in how family, motherhood, career, community, and all of that will look like and continue to look like, I think we need to rid ourselves of the pressure to have it all figured out. I did do a video sometime last year where I spoke in detail about my motherhood journey, and I believe if you're interested in the pre-mother of two era, then that particular video would be of interest to watch. I'll leave a link below. Another thing that I've learned being a mom is that it's completely divine. Some people may come for me for making that statement. I am just one of those people who feel like it's one of those things that you either are destined to do or you're not. And I know there are some cruel moms out there, there are some heartless moms out there, there are some moms in pain, there are some flawed moms out there. I think all of us are flawed. I am a person who's Christian and who's a spiritual person, and deeply believe from my own journey that this is a God-given journey. I would not be able to do it if I relied completely on my own strength. I would not be able to do it and show up for it if I thought that I am tasked to mold the most perfect human being. No, this human being has come into this earth and they have their own God-given purpose. And mine is to hold their hand through it. And there is no reality where I'd be able to do this if I relied completely on my own strength. It's not possible. I think it's completely divine. And in the same breath, I do think that motherhood is one of those things that you need to want wholeheartedly for yourself, because you have no idea how this will shift and change you and break you and test you. It's something that we can very easily idealize. However, we are not prepared for how we navigate the aftermath. Nobody prepares you for how difficult pregnancy can be. Nobody prepares you for how postpartum depression can alter your entire life, your entire personality. Nobody prepares you for how you will show up when suddenly a little one is reliant on you to survive. It's a very difficult journey that you have no choice but to navigate as you go. And so I think it's just naive on my part to really believe this is something that you can do where you completely rely on your own understanding. It's not possible. Lastly, and this is something I wholeheartedly believe, motherhood is just one part of who I am. I am not one of those people who feel that when I'm with my kids, I am completely, fully fulfilled. Love them, enjoy them, cannot imagine my life without them, cannot imagine my journey without them. However, I'm fulfilled by so many other things. And if we are talking about Dambisa the individual, while I wholeheartedly believe that motherhood is a part of my divine journey, I also know that I'm also on this earth to do so many other different things. And it is very important to me that my children know me as a full human being who's flawed, who makes mistakes, who is figuring it out as she goes, and who's making sure she's the best version for them to be able to hold their hands and make sure that they are able to fulfill their purpose. In order for me to do that, I need to be a whole and a full person who has interests, who has bad days, who has good days, sometimes is also annoyed and irritated by my kids. There is no reality where it's always joyous and always fun. And that's part of it. So I am not one of those people who think that being a mom fulfills me completely. Now I know that there are others who do, and that's perfectly fine and fitting. All things journey, divinity, purpose. It's just not how I navigate my life. And I say this because I think in the early stages of motherhood, I felt a lot of guilt for being so intentional about pouring into my interests and myself. And I felt like maybe I was doing something wrong, or maybe I'm not a good enough mother, or maybe there's not enough room for me to be able to nurture and water all the different parts of myself. I've figured out and made my peace with the fact that in my version of being a parent, this is what makes sense for me. So I'll leave it there. If you've made it till the end of the video, I really hope if there's anything that you've taken away from watching this is to extend a little bit more grace and a little bit more kindness to moms Not because it's a cliche thing to do, but because we're navigating very tricky, difficult journeys. We're not the only ones who are doing this. Everybody has their own things and their own load to figure out and navigate. But if there's anything that you've taken away from this journey, I would encourage that. And if you are a mom watching, I hope that you free yourself from the pressure, you free yourself from the judgment, you free yourself from having to prove anything but to God, your children, and those who matter to you. And I hope that you free yourself from not always knowing what the next step looks like, not always having the answers. You free yourself from the judgment you may put on yourself for making mistakes. We're all figuring it out as we go. Hope this video was helpful, and thank you so much for watching till the end if you have. Have a good week ahead.